Hello everybody, my name is Joshua and I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we will discuss books, both new and old. I will share with you pictures of my cats who will make you wish they were your cats. I will drink enough coffee for me and everybody watching. Now, you might be wondering why I'm using my wife's mug today. That is because I got this for her for last Valentine's Day, and today is a Valentine's Day book tag. Now, I said in my last video that I plan to do a book tag next, and as promised, I'm here to deliver. So, today's tag consists of 10 questions, all Valentine's Day or love related. So, I'm going to be reading from my little prompt sheet here, and let's get into it. Number 1, a standalone book that you love. Alright, for this I want to talk about Bright's Passage by Josh Ritter. Bright's Passage is a book that is very much reminiscent of Cormac McCarthy, so for those of you that enjoy Mr. McCarthy's writing, I would highly suggest this book. It's one that not a lot of people talk about, but Bright's Passage takes place directly after the end of World War I. And we are following a particular man who has recently lost his wife. It is now just him and his very young child traveling through this war-torn land, accompanied only by his horse, who may or may not be possessed by a protective guardian angel. And that's really all I'm going to talk about for the book itself. As I said, this book is very reminiscent of the style of Cormac McCarthy. So you're thinking The Road here, of course. You're thinking a little bit of Blood Meridian, actually. But it keeps that very simplistic, quiet sort of tone that McCarthy is so well known for, and Josh Ritter does this as an excellent homage to Mr. McCarthy. So great book. If you've read everything by McCarthy, you're looking for something that could very well emulate his style, I highly suggest Bright's Passage from Josh Ritter. Now, number 2, a favorite dystopian book you love. Alright, this is another one that people just do not talk about. This is Steve Raznick-Tem with Ubo. And first of all, I'm going to give you a second to appreciate that incredible cover. That cover alone should be enough to convince a lot of you that you want to read this book. Because honestly, this was one of the few books that I pre-ordered when it first came out. I don't do that often, just because books are so friggin' expensive when they're brand new. But I saw that cover and I knew that I had to have this book. And thankfully, it did not disappoint whatsoever. So, Ubo is about a man who wakes up in a facility with a bunch of other people. And none of them know how they got there, but they all have the same final memory before showing up there. And that is of these massive wings beating past the moonlight, and they wake up and they're in this facility that is run by massive human-sized cockroaches that give them these crazy, ridiculous tasks that don't really make sense, and they are constantly experimented on. These people are experimented on, awful, horrible things are done to them, and the characters don't know what's going on, you don't know what's going on, and it is just an absolute nightmare. I consider this a dystopian novel for a few reasons, but I'm not really going to talk about why. I'm just going to suggest that you guys pick up a copy of Ubo, simply because you haven't read anything like this book. Trust me on that. You have not read anything like this book, and the creepiness and unsettling nature of the cover absolutely pulls through the story. And the ending has such a twist to it that you're going to stop and wonder if you really just read what you think you read. Now, interestingly enough, number 3 is a book you love that no one talks about. So, one, I feel like it could have been either of the first 2 books that I talked about, and I feel like it could have been a lot of the books that I show off on this channel. But for this, I'm going to talk about one that I think more of you horror lovers out there should read, and surprisingly, I just don't hear anyone discuss it. That is Rabbit in Red by Joe Chyanakis. Now, Rabbit in Red is meant for us horror lovers, so that's why I'm a little confused as to why more people have not read it. Rabbit in Red takes place basically where there is this film production company, this one particular man that is very well known. He makes the absolute best of the best when it comes to horror, and he puts out this contest for teens and for young adults to see who is the ultimate horror lover out there. Now, this contest is not just about horror movies. This is about all things horror, books and literature, movies, the actors and actresses and authors and people who make horror what it is. It is a full gamut of knowledge about horror, and just testing these kids to see who the ultimate horror lover is. And the winners get a chance to go to his production company and go through this super cool sort of horror movie simulation. But the kids that end up there realize that things are not quite as kosher and safe as they may have thought. So, again, if you are a horror fan, Rabbit in Red is an excellent book for you. It's actually part of the trilogy, and the whole trilogy is really cool. The trilogy as a whole is very enjoyable and will be beloved by any horror fans out there who want to test their own knowledge alongside these teens. Now, number 4 asks for your favorite book couple. And for this one, I decided to go with Stepp and Deanne Fletcher from Lost Boys. I will, of course, show off the inner cover, because that's part of the fun of having these awesome step back covers. Now, for those who have not read Lost Boys, this was a recent read for me, one from last year. I won't talk as much about the book, except to say that it is billed as a horror, but it's not really a horror. But as far as the couple go, Stepp and Deanne are just awesome together. They're so freaking supportive of each other throughout everything that goes on, and there is some stuff that goes on in this book that is pretty dark. But they're just so supportive of each other. And although I myself am not a parent and have no intentions whatsoever of being a parent, they are the parents that I would want to be if that sort of thing were ever in the cards. If you have read Lost Boys, then you'll probably understand what I mean. If you have not, it's not a book that I can suggest for most people, actually. But suffice it to say that Stepp and Deanne are an awesome couple, great parents together, and I love those two together. They are so witty and humorous and fun together. And yeah, it kind of made me think of my wife and I in certain ways. All right, number 5 is a book other people love that you haven't read yet. So for this one, I actually took a book off of my wife's shelf, but it is one that I saw all over BookTube last year. Many people raved about it, and for me, honestly, I just wasn't that interested in reading it. And I still don't know if I'll be interested in reading it. But that is Silvia Moreno Garcia with Mexican Gothic. Now, I heard so much about this book since it came out. It's ended up on a lot of best of lists. There are some people that have had some issues with it, but overall, it's just one of those books that kind of blew up on BookTube. It seemed like everyone was reading it, whether they were into horror or not. And it just never really intrigued me. I felt like I heard so much about it that I didn't even need to read the book. So it's there, it's on my wife's bookshelf. She has not read it yet either. Maybe I'll get to it eventually, but at the moment it's just not one that is at the top of my list to get to. Next up is a book with red on the cover. So, this was an easy one for me. This is a beloved classic. I am so happy to have this book, and especially to have it in the kind of condition that I do. This is Stephen King with the Bachman books. Now, this is a hard one to get a hold of to begin with, but mine has no creasing on the cover whatsoever, and it's in fantastic condition. I don't know how I got so lucky in finding this, because I found it at a Goodwill for 99 cents. This is a hard to get a hold of book as it is, but I love this collection. I really love his earlier works. I think that as Bachman, he put out some great stuff. And if you have not read his work as Richard Bachman, I highly suggest you do so if you can. Great book here. Obviously, plenty of red on the cover. Very much a collection worth getting a hold of if you can. Now, number 7 is a book with pink on the cover. So, for those of you that don't know, I am very colorblind. So, red is one of the few colors that I can mostly see and mostly differentiate a majority of the time. Pink, however, is a color that really just doesn't exist for me at all. So I had to get my wife's help with this one. I kept bringing books back and forth to her and asking, is this pink? Is this pink? Is this pink? And eventually I got smart about it. I saw one particular book up on my shelf that I thought, okay, well, this one has to have pink somewhere on the cover, and sure enough it did. That is David Quantick's All My Colors. Now, my wife assures me that there is pink in a couple places in this cover. If there is not, then yell at her, not me. This is a book that I have shown off before. It's a book that I desperately want to get to, and it just keeps getting pushed off somehow, but I'm definitely reading it this year. This is a book about this wannabe writer who basically the only thing he has going for him is that he has a perfect memory. He does not forget things, and one day, to try and show off at a party, he starts telling the entire story of this book called All My Colors, and quickly realizes that nobody else in the room knows what this book is, what he's talking about, even though it is supposedly a bestseller. So he decides he is going to steal the book, write it, and, make a bunch of money off of it. And something somewhere does not like this plan. And that's all I know about the book. For me, it kind of had a Mandela effect sound to it. Sounds really intriguing. Killer cover. I mean, I'm sure there is so much more going on here that I can't see, but awesome cover, awesome synopsis. Can't wait to get to that book. All right, number 8 asks, what fictional boyfriend or girlfriend would you give a box of chocolates to? Now, my wife was not happy with this question, but for me, it was a very easy choice. I had to go with one of the kindest, most caring women that I have read about in fiction, and that is Miss Annie from Misery. Now, Annie is this kind-hearted, beautiful soul who takes care of a man who is in a terrible accident and cannot take care of himself. Now, this man happens to be her favorite author. Annie, though, she doesn't let that get in the way. She doesn't lose herself in stardom. She is just the perfect gentlewoman, takes care of him, heals him back up to the best of her abilities, which are considerable considering that at one point she was a nurse. And she is just so sweet. She's just so sweet and kind and funny. And if I had a box of chocolates to give Miss Annie, then I would, because I hope that one day as an author I can have fans that that love me and care for me as much as Miss Annie does for Mr. Paul Sheldon. All right, number 9. This is actually, I feel like it's 3 questions in one, but whatever. You are single on Valentine's Day. Oh no, that's upsetting. What book would you read? What movie? What TV show? Okay, well, considering that my wife and I have been together for 13 years now without as much as a single, decent argument, if I ended up single on Valentine's Day, I would kind of feel like an April Fool, because I was pretty sure we were going to be together forever. So, after reading those 2 books, I would console myself with one of my favorite TV shows, Tales from the Crypt, because at least the Crypt Keeper could give me a laugh or 2, maybe make me feel a little better. Following that, I would watch the ever wonderful horror movie, The Lonely Ones, which, for those of you who have not watched it, is about a lonely woman who finds a boy that she would love to take her to the dance, but sadly he is already taken. She doesn't seem to understand this the way that most people would, and she reacts somewhat poorly to it. So, for those of you who have not watched this movie, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's brutal, it's gutsy and gory, and it's great. And if the sheer horror of that is just too much for me, then I would then end with a slightly more light-hearted movie. One of my favorites that is not a horror film, the 2000 film Bedazzled, with Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley. This is about a man who ends up making a deal with the devil to grant him a couple wishes in exchange for his soul. Unfortunately for him, he has not figured out the lesson that when you deal with the devil, you are never going to end up on top. So, great movie for those who have not watched it, and great movie for those who have watched it who maybe haven't seen it in a while. And then number 10, you are in the bookstore and are shot with Cupid's arrow. What new release will you love? Okay, now, this is again one of the few books that I have pre-ordered that I am very much looking forward to. This is And in Her Smile, The World by Gordon White and Rebecca Allred. Now, first of all, killer cover. How can you not love that cover? I'm going to read you a quick synopsis here. It says, this work of dark fantasy follows Serena and Jeffrey, who independently discover a cult of women and an alternate creation myth. When a not-so-chance meeting brings them together, the two have an important decision to make. It also highlights the dangers attendant with telling women to smile. This is actually more of a novella, I believe, but I don't really care. I have not seen a cover that has intrigued me this much this quickly since Cassandra Call's incredibly disappointing Nothing But Blackened Teeth. So hopefully this one will work out just a tiny bit better for me. And with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. I apologize. I don't know what the quality of this video is going to be. I don't have a lot of voice. I'm still battling the after effects of COVID. And despite the fact that I went a solid week or 2 with no effects whatsoever to my voice, I decided I was going to sit down and do a little filming today, and sure enough, it's been in and out all day long. So, hopefully you can understand me through most of this. I am supposed to tag a few of you, so I think I'm going to tag Juan over at Plagued by Visions. I know you're a busy guy, but if you get to it, you get to it. I would like to tag Ariel over at Reading and Whatnot. Again, I know you're a busy gal, but if you get to it, I think it would be a great one. And I want to tag 2 other people who in my head are always kind of connected. That is Brandon over at Brandon Reads and Anna over at A Blurb from the Serb. So, thank you for joining me, guys. I've tagged the 4 of you. If you guys get to it, let me know. If you don't, perfectly okay. I'll just be here wondering where I went wrong, since apparently this is going to be Valentine's Day on my own. I don't know. But that is all. Thank you, guys. Stay safe. Drink great coffee. If you do not have someone this Valentine's Day, that is perfectly okay, man. Perfectly okay. There's a lot of great reading out there to do, a lot of great movies and TV shows to watch, and just spend some time with you. That's all, guys. Cheers.